Well, good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to our virtual audience. It'll be my pleasure to introduce our panelists in just a moment. But first, I want to thank you all for just joining us for this Lunch and Learn on Period Poverty. Today's conversation is presented in conjunction with the Community Food Bank of New Jersey's Great Big Period Product Drive. It's a mouthful, I know. But following the enormous success of last year's effort, this is CFBNJ's second annual drive to raise funds, collect products, and cultivate awareness during this National Period Poverty Awareness Week, which is May 22nd to May 28th. I am Dr. Toja Chikiobi, and it's my privilege to moderate today's conversation as a member of Women Fighting Hunger. Under the leadership of Lauren Parisier-Weiss, Women Fighting Hunger is a volunteer organization that supports the goals and priorities of the CFBNJ to provide food, help, and hope. It's our pleasure to support CFBNJ's phenomenal staff and critical projects and to present events like this afternoon's conversation. Now, I'll start off by saying that research shows that nationwide, due to lack of income, 2 in 5 people with periods lives in period poverty, which describes the struggle to secure adequate period supplies for individuals to meet their menstrual needs every month. In fact, one pre-pandemic study out of St. Louis, a study of low-income women, found that 46% of those surveyed were not able to buy both food and menstrual products in the preceding year. And in 2021, a national survey of college students, researchers at George Mason University and the University of Pennsylvania found that 10%, 1 in 10 of all female college students are unable to afford menstrual products each month, leading to skipped classes and greater self-reported rates of moderate or severe depression. In fact, at one high school in St. Louis, up to 2/3 of the girls reported that they do not have a reliable source of tampons or pads. And 1/3 of the girls surveyed at this particular school say that they stay at home from class for precisely that reason. So today we will have the opportunity to learn from our speakers so that we can educate ourselves about this problem, spread the word in our communities, and of course, take steps towards making change. I do want to mention that we are recording our conversation today, and we're very much looking forward to hearing from our amazing panelists and from the audience as well. The chat is open. If you want to say hello, I can see there's a lot of activity already. We have people all the way from Bergen and Hudson down to Egg Harbor, South Jersey. So phenomenal audience already, I can tell. We'll be looking for your questions later because we'll have some time for a Q&A. And I want to thank you in advance for your contributions to the conversation. And now I'd like to introduce our distinguished panelists. They have impressive bios, which we'll post in the chat in case you'd like to learn a little bit more about the work that they do. So I will start with you, Jennifer Gaines. Jennifer is the program director at Alliance for Period Supplies, where she supports a national network of nonprofit organizations working to end period poverty in the United States. The Alliance for Period Supplies raises awareness, supports the nationwide distribution of period supplies and funding, and advocates for legislative changes. Jennifer has a strong commitment to serving diverse communities and has worked extensively over the last 10 years, providing reproductive and sexual health education to youth and adults in underserved communities. Jennifer, welcome to our Lunch and Learn today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
We're honored to have you. So Jennifer, I'm putting you on the spot. In an interview you gave, you said period poverty is a key public health crisis we aren't talking enough about, yet it is causing a tremendous physical and emotional impact on people in need. Tell us, why is it a crisis and what are the stakes for individuals, for families, for communities, and for the nation at large? What are the barriers to treating period poverty as a health crisis in our country?
Yeah, I would love to start with that. So again, thank you so much for having me here on behalf of Alliance for Period Supplies. So I like to kind of like lay out the landscape. So period poverty, simply put, is a person's inability to afford period supplies they need to adequately manage their period. So products like pads, tampons, liners, period underwear, or cleansing wipes. It's also the lack of access to proper hygiene facilities, so meaning clean restrooms with working toilets, running water, proper disposal of waste products, and basic necessities like toilet paper and paper towels. But when someone does not have the basic necessities they need to manage their period, they're forced to miss out on daily activities like going to work to earn an income and support their family, or for students going to school and gaining education alongside their peers. So you wonderfully opened up this segment to say that 2 out of 5 individuals have reported struggling to afford these products, and 1 out of 4 students have missed school due to the lack of period products. So what's at stake, right? So these individuals that are suffering, that cannot afford the product, are forced to use proxy items like toilet paper or unclean rags, anything that works really, and even using products for longer periods of time than recommended. So now let's put this in a national perspective. In our country today, there are over 70 million girls, women and girls, and people who menstruate between the ages of 12 and 44. So out of that 70 million, 1 in 6 live below the federal poverty line. So that means that there are millions of people in this country today that menstruate, that live in poverty and are unable to afford the basic necessities they need. So people who are already suffering from the effects of poverty, experiencing food insecurity, housing insecurity, they're really just trying to get through day by day. They're also burdened with the issue of not having an adequate supply of period products that they need each month to go to work and go to school. So what are the stakes again is millions of people who are at risk of health infection and other health issues, women's participation in the workplace and limiting their economic income and opportunities. Young girls who miss school are unable to participate alongside their classmates. That could cause lower academic performance, mental and emotional well-being. So there's so many different components that a lot of people don't realize by not having the basic necessity that they need.
Wow, thank you, Jennifer, for just laying it out so clearly for us. I'm going to kind of hold back how I'm thinking about this and what I'm seeing, and leave the audience to make their own conclusions. But your comments, about just the national scope and the personal and, individual stakes, the community stakes, just the long-term outcome of this crisis leads me to pivot to Dr. Thelma Witherspoon. Now, Dr. Thelma brings a local grassroots perspective to our discussion. Dr. Thelma Witherspoon is a committee woman for Hamilton Township, Atlantic County, New Jersey, and she's a former president of the Atlantic City Board of Ed and retired after 35 years with the Atlantic City Police Department. She is the pastor of the Westminster Christian Worship Center in Atlantic City, and she also runs the center's food pantry, which is an agency partner of the Community Food Bank of New Jersey and its Period Initiative. So her pantry receives and distributes period products to the community. Welcome, Dr. Thelma. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn. You have such a wealth of experience from the many hats that you wear and have worn. So we value your contribution. Please tell us some of your day-to-day experience with the impact of period poverty in Atlantic County and why your pantry participates with the Food Bank's Period Initiative.
First, I want to say thank you so much for letting me be a part of this distinguished panel with all of this distinguished guests. We've been participating in the food pantry recently for the last 3 years. We started out years ago, reconnected right before the pandemic, and during the pandemic, we became a pantry for people in South Jersey, one of the ones. But what we found out that a lot of people were laid off, a lot of people were not working, some were single parents, and sometimes people don't need a lot of help. Those period products were very grateful because their funds, they could use their monies to go to other things that for other necessities. We had some people who said if it wasn't for that, they couldn't buy their medicine. You know, they had to choose between their medicine and other essential products that they needed. So it has been an experience, very humbling. You know where you've been, but you don't know where you're going. And anything can happen to anyone in life. You know, it doesn't mean that people are lazy or don't want to do, just having some hard times. And so to have these products has been so important for the community. And they asked for it. They asked for it. Do you have any period products? Yes, we do. And for people to do that, it takes a lot for people to be in line. And if people ask for it, they really need it, truly need it. So having the compassion and understanding where people are, I think it helps to have the product available and let the people have their dignity at the same time. You know, to keep their dignity at the same time, because you don't make them feel bad because they need a product, but you want them to do it so they can continue to go to work or go to school or do the things that they should be able to do.
And just a follow-up question to that, are you seeing a difference now that technically the pandemic is over? Or are you still seeing the same level of need like in the past year or so?
The need is still the same because things have gone up. The pandemic may be over, but prices are higher. You know, the gas has come down a little bit, but for a while, gas was high. The eggs were high. You know, the food is high. So the need is the same. You would have thought I would have thought that maybe after the pandemic, it would have been different. But because the prices have gone up, the rents have gone up. The average rent down here, I don't know about New Jersey, is $2,000 a month. And so it's quite a bit. If you don't have more than one income, or you're a single parent, or went through a divorce or a sickness, and even if you're not a single parent and there's two incomes, things are extremely expensive. The rents have gone up tremendously, and mortgages, you know, have gone up, and credit cards. People are just trying to make ends meet. So the need is still great. And I'm just glad to be one of the organizations that are able to help people that are in need during this particular time.
Thank you, Dr. Thelma, for that close-up view of the struggle that many have to access adequate period supplies. This leads me to Stephanie. Stephanie Abrams is the Director of Advocacy and Community Engagement for the National Council of Jewish Women, Essex County Section. She's responsible for all advocacy initiatives, including those dealing with menstrual equity, reproductive rights, gun violence prevention, anti-human trafficking, and getting out the vote. She's also a leader for Thrive New Jersey, a statewide coalition of organizations advocating for menstrual equity. She excels at getting to the heart of important issues and advocating for those most in need. Stephanie, welcome to our panel today.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Women Fighting Hunger for hosting this panel.
Oh,
I'm
you're
thrilled to be
welcome.
here with share a screen with my fellow menstrual equity warriors.
You're welcome. We're excited to have you. So the National Council for Jewish Women strives for social justice by improving the quality of life of women, children, and families, and by safeguarding individual rights and freedoms. Now, in your role there, and also at Thrive New Jersey, please tell us some of the different ways that you're addressing period poverty in the at the state level in New Jersey. What are some of the challenges and new opportunities that you're encountering in this fight?
Sure. Our period project works to promote menstrual equity and help end period poverty through education, distribution, and advocacy. So we speak on panels like this, and we work with schools, youth groups, houses of worship in our community so that people know period poverty is happening right here in New Jersey. We also distribute product to those in need, and we are about to distribute our 1 millionth period product this summer. We are so grateful to the Community Food Bank. Our partnership with you all has enabled this to happen. And yet the entities we work with, food pantries, family assistance organizations, refugee groups, have come back to us on a regular basis to say that more products are needed. The need is that great. We hope to continue to give these groups the supplies they need, yet our ultimate goal is that we put ourselves out of business, meaning that legislation will be passed that would make menstrual products readily accessible in public restrooms, schools, libraries, food pantries, just as toilet paper and paper towels are. In short, we would like to see our distribution arms become obsolete, and we have work to do. Though New Jersey was the first state to eliminate the tampon tax way back in 2005, it was only this year that the state legislature introduced menstrual equity bills. In order for a bill to become a law in New Jersey, it has to pass through the state Senate and state assembly before the governor signs it into law. This September, the Assembly Women and Children Committee advanced 8 menstrual equity bills, including those that would help homeless shelters and food banks provide them for free. And we applaud the introduction of all those bills. But today I want to tell you the story of another bill that's number A1349, which I think someone mentioned in the chat earlier. That would require free period products in school bathrooms for grades 6 through 12 and require the state to pay the costs. The initial language for this bill was drafted way back in 2016. And since then, we have watched Washington, D.C. and 21 other states, including much less progressive states like Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Utah, pass their own versions of period products in schools bill, correcting an inequality in education and opportunity that is clearly a nonpartisan issue. NCDW was proud to work with our partners to help start some period product dispenser pilot programs in some New Jersey schools in 2021. The programs were hugely successful in that the products filled an obvious need, the dispensers were respected, and the students were able to go about their days with dignity, because that's really what it's all about, the dignity. In short, menstrual product dispensers in school bathrooms are easy to implement and effective to use. So the story of this bill, A1349, is not the story of whether free menstrual products in schools would work or how much it would cost, because like toilet paper and paper towels, the cost of putting period products in school bathrooms is really pennies on the dollar. The story of this bill is a story of partnership and perseverance. We are lucky enough to work with so many partners as part of the Menstrual Equity Coalition of Thrive New Jersey, a group of more than 80 organizations committed to reproductive health care. And we have worked hard on the specific wording of this bill to make it very inclusive, using the term menstrual product instead of feminine hygiene product, and making sure the products would be in both female bathrooms and gender neutral bathrooms. And while the bill easily passed through the state Senate earlier this year, we were having problems getting the state assembly to introduce it. So a few weeks ago, we called upon our partners to send emails to every member of the state assembly, asking it to be introduced. And we were thrilled that on May 11th, this bill passed through the Assembly Women and Children's Committee. Yay. I was honored to be in the room with so many menstrual equity partners, including Danielle Burgess. Thank you so much, Danielle, for your support. And now this bill needs to be heard in the Assembly Education Committee. And I think we are going to have a call to action later about how to do that.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm just so encouraged by your invaluable work, on period poverty advocacy, and this encouraging news, from the New Jersey state legislation. On that note, I would like to introduce our very own Danielle Burgess. Danielle is the Impact Program Manager at the Community Food Bank of New Jersey, where she oversees the food bank's population-specific programs, including the diaper, college pantry, and senior box programs. Danielle manages the Period Initiative of the Food Bank, one of the only menstrual equity programs run by a food bank in service to those affected by period poverty. The Period Initiative is a founding allied program of the Alliance for Period Supplies, which is who Jennifer works with, and partners with community organizations such as NCJW Essex, which Stephanie works with, and the Westminster Christian Center, where Dr. Witherspoon works. And so we can see that Danielle is the Community Food Bank's nexus for all of these organizations and works with each of our panelists and is quite familiar with each of them. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and thank everybody on the panel. It's really nice to see you guys all come together. I work with everyone in different perspectives, but it's so nice to see you guys all here together.
Well, welcome, Danielle. Now, Danielle, many people don't realize that the Food Bank not only addresses food insecurity, but also provides access to other critical resources for our neighbors in need. Please tell us about this, the CFBNJ's Period Initiative, which you've been a part of from the very beginning, and your involvement in advocacy on period poverty.
Yeah, so we started our period initiative in a very small cohort in 2018, thanks to NCJW called us and reached out to us about what period poverty was. And much like probably a lot of people on this call, we were like, I don't know what period poverty is. What is that? And then we had a really good conversation about what it is and how we can help. Coincidentally, Alliance for Period Supplies was forming at the National Diaper Bank. So we were like, this is great. This is amazing. How can we get involved? I watched this program go from, when I started, it was a cohort about 10 people, 10 pantries, I should say. And no, it was 8 pantries and 2 schools on the program. And now we have about 100 organizations, over 100 organizations, food banks, food pantries, shelters, soup kitchens, all joining this effort. We have a couple schools as well on the program, all joining this effort. So what I heard recently, I was actually at the Basic Poverty and Basic Need Conference that National Diaper Bank and Alliance for Period Supplies have, is they called us basic need banks. And I thought that was so fitting for CFB&J, because although we are the Community Food Bank of New Jersey, we are helping get basic needs out to the community. So you'll see us a lot, not only bring in food, but bring in hygiene products, period products, especially diapers, wipes, things like that, that everybody needs. So our focus is understanding that the people at these pantry lines or in all of our other feeding organization, if they're struggling with one thing, they're struggling with a lot of other things. And we know that a lot of our partners are coming to us asking for things that we wouldn't have even thought about: clothes, coats, blankets, things like that. So we really pride ourselves in trying to understand that everybody has a need. And although we can't help everyone's need, we create programs to kind of help the needs that we can focus. And Period Initiative is one of the programs that we have created to help address these issues. And as far as advocacy, I would say this is something that we're starting to get into and understanding. Me as a population specific manager, my understanding is my populations usually have some type of legislation that kind of prevents these things to happen. So it's really important for, as my role, to get involved with these advocacy works, to make sure that we are able to not only help by distributing the product, because that's a kind of a band-aid to the solution. The real solution comes from legislations that is put in to prevent period poverty from happening. So our take is to help these advocacy efforts and help these things that are going on. It was amazing to go to Trenton last weekend, or 2 weeks ago at this point, I think. And to see it be passed. When I say the room was filled, there was about, I think, 3 bills they were bringing to the floor, and we had the most testimonies for our bill. We had the most people wanting to speak out. We had students. It was an amazing thing to see this come alive. And then we were able to see everybody around the room vote yes. And that was very fulfilling to me to say that's going to be passed. It's a small step, but we know that this is a big step to where we want to be. So we are going to keep fighting, and we're going to, of course, post the link of next steps of how we can do. And it's really important that you guys help us address your legislators, your assemblymen and women, to let them know this is an issue and how we can help kind of move these legislations along.
Wow, thank you, Danielle. Thank you very much. Our speakers have given us a lot to think about, audience, and we're very much looking forward to hearing from you, viewers. The chat is open. If you want to say hello, if you want to ask a question, even as the conversation is going on, please do. I'll be looking for those questions later during the Q&A. So Jennifer, I'll come back to you. We heard Stephanie tell us about what's going on at the New Jersey state legislation on this issue. Now, you support a nationwide network at the Alliance for Period Supplies. Please tell us what the response is at the national level to period poverty.
Yes, of course. And I definitely want to highlight the work that you all are doing at the Community Food Bank of New Jersey and everything that Danielle just said. We need everyone involved. We need to empower everyone to get involved in this issue. It's not just, distributing products and that is the end all, right? We can't end period poverty by just distributing period products. We need everyone. So at the National Diaper Bank Network and Alliance for Period Supplies, we raise awareness of this issue on that national level. We elevate the work that the folks are doing on the ground across the country. So we have amazing folks who have saw the need or identify the need in their communities and have started amazing grassroots organizations and are collecting and distributing millions of products a year to their local communities. That no one else can do, right? So we wouldn't be here on this platform speaking to you if it wasn't for these amazing leaders on the ground. And so what we'd like to do is elevate the work that they're doing and support their expansion of their programs, either by talking with legislators, like Danielle had mentioned, and educating these legislators and elected officials about this issue so that they can advance policy to create gender equity in these issues. Some of our priorities are to advocate for free period products in schools. So we advocate for legislation, fully funded bills to provide period products in schools. And I say fully funded because there are some states that have passed bills, but there is no funding behind it. So really, to pass a bill is great, right? We'd like to see that. We'd like to have that conversation going and making that, making those efforts happen. But if you don't have the funding behind it, it's almost, not effective. And so we educate elected officials on this issue and why these products, should be available for students so that they can, attend school. And so women can go to work. Also, our founding sponsors are by Kotex. So we are very proud to work alongside them and our allied programs to distribute millions of products throughout the programs so that they can help to distribute those products as well. And yeah, there's so much to do. We've made tremendous growth in the last 2 years. So I remember starting at Alliance for Period Supplies almost creeping up to 3 years now. And it was just this, not a lot of people knew about what period poverty is or what that meant. A lot of folks thought it only happened in other countries. And how could it happen here in the United States? We're this great, robust country. But when you start, collecting the data and hearing the stories and listening to them, we have a real public health issue. And going back to what Dr. Toju said, that, women are, almost ashamed to even say that they're, suffering from period poverty. So they're not only affected by being stigmatized of living in poverty, but also just the stigma behind talking about periods is also there. And so we like to do is to normalize the conversation, have platforms like this that we can talk with folks about what this issue is and just normalize it. It's a normal monthly bodily function that happens. There's nothing we can do about it. Half of the world experiences it. And there are many millions of women and girls and people who menstruate in our country that need the product to continue doing their daily life activities. So that's what we do. We love to partner with, organizations across the country, as well as some new folks that, we can get everybody's, help in this. So I know there was a question in the chat about manufacturers and getting them involved. And so, we're working with them and trying to figure out that long-term sustainable solution.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that. That was very helpful. And I just wanted a quick housekeeping note here. Please feel free to post your questions in the chat. We're not going to take questions right now, but there'll be a Q&A at the end of the session. So, but we are taking note of your questions. So just wanted to let you know that. Dr. Thelma, what are some of the ways you're trying to ease the burden of period poverty in Atlantic County and its surrounding communities through the food pantry and then through the other, avenues that you have access to? Can you tell us a bit about that? Did we lose her on the mic? Well, you know what? I'll circle back to Dr. Thelma. Stephanie, now that our audience has learned some more about what's at stake and how different organizations are working to respond, it's clear that it's an issue that can't just be tackled, in one way, but it has to be local, state, federal, and even globally addressed. So what kinds of things can we, the audience, do in our neighborhoods and our communities to make change?
Sure. I would say that keep giving product first and foremost until these laws are passed. And the Great Big Period Drive is one great way to do that. And there are, of course, NCJW and many other organizations still collect product, because until we pass these laws, where the products are available in every bathroom. Let's just take a minute to acknowledge that I have back here my paper towels and I have toilet paper. If I had to go to the bathroom carrying all these products, you'd think I was crazy, right? But the way things have always been done is that women administrators have to carry their products to the bathroom, but we need to change the dialogue and make sure these products are in every public restroom, first and foremost. So I would say, continue the conversation, keep giving product, and talk to your legislators. I think there's a quote that the difference between a bill getting brought up at the state level is 7 phone calls. And clearly there are many more than that on the call at this time. So I would encourage you to talk to your local legislators, your assembly people, and your state senators about how important this bill is, because this bill affects women, and honestly, it affects women of color and low-income women more than anyone else. And these are fundamentally groups that have a hard time having their voices be heard. So we need to stand as allies with them and make sure legislators are on the same page. And we have a very easy call to action, which I can talk about later, but in the time it takes you to do the New York Times Wordle or the New York Times mini crossword, you can click on a link and let your legislators know how important this bill is. Those are just some of the ways we can help on the local level.
Thank you, Stephanie. And, we'll have all that information at the end of the chat posted, ways you can run a drive, ways, as she said, to get, this to your legislator. And so we'll have all of those. But, this has been a tremendously informative time, as we go on. But as we're kind of starting to wrap up, so we have time for the Q&A, I want to ask Jennifer, what is your final thought or call to action that you want to leave with the audience today?
That's a really good question, and definitely touched upon some of it. But I would say the leave behind really is to break the stigma. And that's what we're doing right now. Let's continue to have this conversation and talk and normalize about periods and raise awareness about the issue and how it impacts individuals. And you can do that so simply, like engage with us during this week. This week is Period Poverty Awareness Week. So have a conversation with a friend, your partner, your child, your neighbor, your child's teacher, whoever it is, you're walking down the street, just having a conversation and saying, hey, have you ever heard of period poverty? Or did you know it was Period Poverty Awareness Week? There are, wonderful organizations across the country that are doing work year round. And so we're mobilizing this national network to elevate this week to do just that, is to destigmatize periods, because then it just kind of opens up the door for other things. It opens up for us to have conversation with elected officials to inform them on advancing policy. And then, it just opens up, period product drives and, hosting a fundraiser, and just, also identifying a local organization in your community that will take period supplies in. And you'd be surprised, even food banks take products. So, food banks or local shelters or, any organization, and just call them up and say, hey, are you taking period supplies? I'd love to donate some to you. And even if it's just one package, even if you're going to the store and grabbing yourself, pads, or if you're in the grocery store and you think of just grab a box and drop it off, and it does really make a difference.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. That's clear marching orders. Stephanie, what is your takeaway for the audience? One thing you'd like to leave with the audience?
I've been loving the quote, if you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. I think everyone in this call can be the mosquito. You can give product, which would help someone be able to go to class, help them go to work, and you can click on the link, you can call your legislator. But imagine, I don't know, do mosquitoes swarm? If we all swarm together, we are stronger together, and we all need to work to get these legislation passed and to end period poverty together.
Thank you, Stephanie. Danielle, what about you? What last thing do you want to leave with the audience?
Just want to echo what both Stephanie and Jennifer said. A big thing is donations. A lot of people need this product. You can donate to CFB&J, you can donate directly to shelters or some of our partner organizations. They would be more than happy. I also want to add in volunteerism. Always offering, if you would like to volunteer with them, they always can use some help kind of distributing these products, as well as making sure they're doing the intake and everything correctly. So I know that's a big help with some of our partners, including us, volunteering with us to sort product. That is all super helpful. And also releasing the stigma. Till this day, I have to correct some people from calling it feminine hygiene or being embarrassed about it. I've been to pantries where somebody's like looking and looking away and looking again at the product and looking away. I'm like, do you need some pads? We can happily give it to you. And that all of that is just making them aware that this is not, it's not an issue. Everybody gets every person with a uterus gets a period. So it is very important that we normalize it, because there's nothing that we can do to stop. Nothing we can really do to stop it. But we want to make sure we normalize it to release the stigma and not make people feel ashamed about it.
Thank you, Danielle. So what I'm hearing from our panelists is, let's end the stigma. Let's destigmatize periods and the need for period products. I'm hearing you say that we can all be a mosquito. We can all do our bit, buy an extra box when you go to the store to buy use. Look in your community for an organization that accepts them and donate them. Host a drive of your own. Create awareness in your circles, where you do your hair, where you do your nails, your kids' school, the PTA, create awareness on this issue in your circle, and definitely hit that QR code and talk to your legislator. Let them know that you want them to take action on this. So this is what I'm hearing across the board from our panelists. And I want to thank each of you for being here. I'm not sure if Dr. Thelma has her mic back on now. Dr. Thelma, are you there? I think we lost her. I apologize about that. But we'll take audience questions now, and then we'll wrap up later. So one of the questions, this is my question actually, and I want to pose it before we end this because it speaks about it on a national level. So one powerful way that federal law can and should change to address period poverty is by making menstrual products eligible for purchase with supplemental nutrition assistance, that's the SNAP, form of food stamps, and the special supplementary nutrition program, what we all know as WIC benefits. What is the progress in this area nationally? And either Stephanie or Jennifer can answer this question.
Sure, I can say that NCJW is not on board with that, because I'm sure Jennifer can chime in, because it's adding an additional item to already stretched benefits and with no additional funding. So it's at the expense of food. But Jennifer, I defer to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So at Alliance for Period Supplies, we actually do not advocate to add period products to programs like SNAP and WIC. They have been historically underfunded. And so, as Stephanie had mentioned, when you put an additional product in that program, families are going to have a harder decision on deciding what they're going to use that little money for. So you're sending them to the grocery store, essentially, having to choose between food or period supplies. We do advocate for a government assistant program separate out of that. So whether that be for basic needs or through TANF, but overall, that is not something that we advocate for.
Thanks for clarifying that. Thank you. And Dr. Witherspoon had to step away because she only had a half hour to give us. And so once her half hour was up, she left. But we are very, very grateful for her contribution to our panel today. Here are some of the other questions that we have. What are we, it's been said that, oh, sorry, I'm just looking at the questions here. Other than being, do any of you work with public school administrators or school nurses to help educate on this issue and provide resources? And then other than being period part, so let me put that question. Do any of you work with public school administrators or school nurses? Have any of you done that?
We partner with public schools to provide them period supplies, and it's usually not the nurse who does it. It's usually like the school social worker or a family advocate or something like that.
Okay, but you do, so you do have that connection.
Yes, we do have several. I think we have about 11 schools right now in our network that receives period supplies, public schools.
Okay. Another question is that other than being period partners, what other ways can we, CFBNJ partner agencies, work to raise awareness of and address the issue of period poverty? I think that would be for you, Danielle.
Besides giving out product, what other way can they support, right? Yes. I think, talking to your legislative, I would say a lot of our pantry partners are heavily connected to the state officials, local officials, mayors, and things like that. I would say to just keep advocating, let them know what you're doing, have them come to a distribution and see the line and see the need. And that is helpful for them to kind of, sometimes if they don't see it, it's like, oh yeah, you're talking about period poverty. But once they see it, they may be more prone to say, oh wow, this is an issue that I need to start to bring up. So I would say to encourage the people you're speaking to, your donors, when they're talking about donation food, that's what we do a lot. When they're talking about donating food, we're like, hey, these are all the other programs this is all the other need that we have. That can also help raise awareness and some things that you can try to do.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you, Danielle. There is a link right now on the chat that provides easy how-to strategies to communicate, to donate, and post on social media, and to host a drive and more. So that is, it's the cfbnj.org/donate-period-products. So that link is on now. There's a question. It says, this is from Tarina. Thank you, Tarina, for putting this in the chart. It says, my daughter's in middle school and has reported issues in her school with girls having adequate supplies. Many are embarrassed to go to the nurse. They are already at the age where they're uncomfortable with their bodies and advocating for their own personal needs. It would be great if we had a way to communicate the larger message within the New Jersey public school system. Going to the nurse only remedies the short-term needs, but possibly creating avenues and pathways within the school system is a great start. But she says we need a fairy godmother. So what's your response to that, Stephanie or Jen?
I think that when we were working on A1349, we made sure that the supplies would not be in the nurse's office because it is very stigmatizing to have to leave class and go to the nurse. You're not sick. It's a normally bodily function, like going to the bathroom. So we want to make sure those supplies are in bathrooms where people would go anyway. So I understand your comment, and hopefully when this bill passes, which it hopefully will, these supplies will be in the female and gender neutral bathrooms so that your daughter won't have to go to the nurse anymore.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think there's also an additional issue here. It's just to how, we're teaching, I guess, I don't know what they call that class now in schools, just about, biology, human biology, basically. Is there a way for us to to pivot on this issue, to come at it from the perspective that it's normal. And so, you know, as an attempt here to destigmatize it for the girls, because clearly the girls feel stigma from it, even on their own, aside from, you know, they're uncomfortable with the whole process. So some way to normalize it. So
I think that the next generation has a lot less stigma than us older folks. I think we've had people do drives for us, boys in middle school. They don't have problems saying it or hiding that they're holding a tampon while going to the bathroom. So that gives me a lot of hope. They aren't making the commercials, you know, the commercials for pads where they pour on the blue liquid. I don't know about you all, but I've never bled blue. So I think the next generation has less stigma and they're going to lead the way.
very encouraging. I am just checking any. So one of the questions is, are you aware of any businesses or companies, either public or private, that provide employees with free menstrual supplies right now? Is there a movement in this direction, like in the private sector?
I'm not aware of it. However, CFB&J now has free menstrual products in our bathrooms. When you come to visit us, you can always take a pad or a tampon if you need it.
Excellent. Let me see.
And I had one thing about what one of our members did. She wanted to have dispensers put in the public areas in her town. And she didn't send 1 email or 2 emails or 10 emails. She had to send 80 emails to get those dispensers put in the library and the town hall. So she's amazing. And I think it takes a lot to get over this hump that these products should be everywhere.
Yeah.
But don't give up.
We won't. That perseverance, that's the word of the day, I guess. So it says, here's another question from Food Brigade. It says, the plan of attack at this point, should the plan of attack at this point be to pressure the members of the Education Committee to hurry up and move it out of the committee, or communicate now with our local assembly representatives? So what are we doing with that QR code at the end?
Sure. The first hurdle is to get it through the Education Committee, and then it goes to the whole assembly. So we will change the call to action when it goes through the Education Committee. But because the assembly goes on recess, there's only 2 dates. I think it's June 8th and June 15th when it could be brought up. And then there's a summer recess, and then we just have the fall. If it isn't introduced before January, then we have to start the whole process again and get it reintroduced in both the Senate and the Assembly. So yes, the impetus right now is to get it into the Education Committee, and then I'll follow back with a new link to get the whole assembly to be on board. But once it passes through the Education Committee, it should pass through the whole assembly. I think they have the votes. So that's the first hurdle.
Okay, so that link that we have at the end is to encourage the Education Committee.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, everybody, you have your marching orders. Please click on that link at the end of this Lunch and Learn today. So I'm just checking to see if we have any more questions in here. I think I might have, I'm looking. Okay, it says, are corporations who make these products willing to donate in large quantities that would make a significant difference?
Yeah, so that I can jump in really quick. I mean, I think so. As our founding sponsors, You by Kotex, they are definitely leading the pack in donating millions of products through the Alliance for Period Supplies to nonprofit organizations. And I think what we're starting to see now is a lot of other product manufacturers getting on board with this. And so we've been working with Thinks particularly, so Period Underwear. They committed to donating over 30,000 period underwear last year. And then they're going to be committing again this year. And so just listening and hearing and taking those opportunities and talking with other product manufacturers as well. I mean, we are also working with the cleaning industry, which is kind of unheard of. And it's like, So they bring, you know, a unique perspective to this issue, where as these period product bills continue to be passed, now we're going to need manufacturers to actually implement these dispensers and continue supplying the product. And so talking with them on how they can make that impact as well for, you know, ending period poverty. So there's so many different ways that we can go about it. So we're definitely doing our best to have those conversations with product manufacturers as well.
That's super. That's great. Yes, esteemed Women Fighting Hunger president has put in the chat that please reach out to her if you want to help, if you need help to run a period product drive. And she has put her email address in the chat. So please avail yourself of that opportunity. I know that just speaking personally for me and for the other members of the Women Fighting Hunger, you know, some, you know, incredible things have been done. One of our members, Suzanne Hall, encouraged a store that she goes in to buy gifts and clothing frequently. She encouraged them to host a drive. And what the store actually did was they dedicated 2 hours one evening last week to shopping, and all the proceeds raised, they donated 20% of their proceeds to the Great Big Period Product Drive. And this is just from somebody talking to the proprietor of a place that she frequents regularly as a customer, as a client. So we can all do that. And I thank you very much for everything that we've learned today. I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to our panelists, Jennifer Gaines, Stephanie Abrams, Dr. Thelma Witherspoon, and Danielle Burgess, for taking the time to help us learn about period poverty and all the ways in which we can contribute to ending it. And a special thank you to our wonderful audience. I see so many. I see Yvette Cormier, shout out to you. That's where I do my hair. She's on this and she's hosting a drive, you know, starting at the end of this week. So I'm excited about that. Thank you to all the wonderful participants in the audience. And finally, please go to cfbnj.org/Great Big Period Product Drive for a complete toolkit you can use to activate a period product drive, build awareness in your circle of influence, or to donate funds to the food banks. #Great Big Period Product Drive. Thank you all for a wonderful hour, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.